consciously decide to go down the path of self-development or self-awareness or whatever else you want to call it, basically to understand ourselves on a deeper level and become better friends with ourselves or have a better relationship with ourselves. And the way I want to address it is from the point of what would hold us back from doing the work, from consciously deciding it. And something that comes to mind is that if we start to look at ourselves and slow down, that we feel we might be absolutely floored by it and overwhelmed by all the stuff we have, let's call it. And it's been my experience that whatever we're ready to deal with, whatever we're ready to face in terms of being strong enough, in terms of being in the right place, that's what comes up. And it's not everything flooding in at once, and that's the process of healing. Because what happens with trauma, so if something happens to it, physically it could be a car crash or an injury, but also it could be an emotional turbulence in terms of something that happened. Inevitably, we all have our traumas from childhood or from relationships as we lived our lives or just our relationship with ourselves. What happens is we experience the event, the trauma, and part of us isn't able to deal with it fully in that moment. So what we do is we suppress or freeze a portion of it, and that gets stored in the body, that gets stored in us until we're ready to deal with it, until we're ready to have a look at it and shed a bit of light on it so that it can start to move again. So that's what we're talking about with shadow work, of basically individual shadow work of things we're not conscious of, consciously aware of now, in terms of they're suppressed. And what I'd say is that, first off, it's like when we decide there are certain things we'll face and we'll have to make peace with or heal and transform our relationship with. And that's part of this process. Every single person on the planet has to do it in some way. And every single one of us has some level of trauma. So the second point, and probably the most important point I'd like to make, is like my life has been incredible and I've been blessed with experiences, although I wouldn't call them blessings at the time, of a lot of deep work in terms of looking at myself and trying to understand myself and going through all the different experiences of frustration, shame, guilt, and all the rest, the human experience. What I say I'm blessed with is the knowing that no matter what a person does, no matter what a person has experienced, there's nothing that will take away from your importance. And I say that not just to throw out a nice sounding statement. I say that because I've came up with and experienced a lot of different versions of people and a lot of different experiences that come with us. And there is nothing we can do that really takes away from that purity. That doesn't mean there's not healing to do or that there aren't consequences to the choices we make, but it's that we can give ourselves permission to accept the things in our life, to accept our darkness, and to allow help and support around that. That's the important part, because we don't have to do it alone, although times on our journey will feel like we're completely isolated and alone. And that's a necessary process to realise we're not really, but that's a separate kind of theme that I'll explore in a different video. But what I mean is that it's a leap of faith. You're consciously deciding to leap into the unknown, and you do not know what that's going to be like, what that journey is going to be like, where you're going to land, and you've no idea. But on some level, at some point, there's this nudge of whether we can trust ourselves, whether we can trust the world, the universe, to support us in it. And again, it's been my experience that once we choose to look at ourselves, that we will be supported, and there is nothing that we can do to really take away from who we are on a deeper level. And again, this is part of the human experience. This is what we're here for. We're here to learn, we're here to evolve. And the greatest means for evolution, or the greatest path for learning, is looking at ourselves and facing that. And when I say facing it, it doesn't need to be all really heavy and isolated. It can be quite light in terms of we can tap into the creative potential that's within all of us and to have fun along the way. So really this is a message for men, and it's kind of two things. It's the points that I'll reaffirm is that no matter where you are in your life, your situation, what you've done, what you've been through, what you've experienced, it's like you're perfect as you are, in terms of it's a perfect place to start, and there's nothing that will really take away from you. And when you open up to that, you mightn't feel it, but you'll find the people, the environments and the places that will support that and actually mirror that back to you. And the second thing is, it doesn't all come at once. It's one thing at a time, and it can be a fun process. And as a personal example, I did a lot of this on my own, but this is because I didn't trust any men. This is actually what I'll finish with. I didn't trust men to be vulnerable around, because I had observed environments that I grew up in or whatever. And it's a collective movement anyway, so it's not a bad thing. But I did not feel safe enough to be expressive of who I was. And the point I'm making is that the work I do and who I am, my medicine for the world is me being me. That's the simplest way I can put it. And what I share and how I hold space for people is everything that I've embodied and learned from my life. And it's offering people who resonate, whether men or women, a space to understand themselves. And that's something that I've had in my life at times, but it's this play around of the environments, the supports that we have in our lives, the people we have in our lives, so that we can feel better ourselves, feel lighter, and enjoy this. So, as always, from my heart to yours, I hope this reaches you well. And if you have any questions about my work, you can message me on Instagram, or you can send me an email through the contact section. Okay, take care.